I'm Joel Arnold, and today I'm talking about my experience with migraines. Super positive topic for a first vlog, but it's relevant to my life, and according to the Migraine Research Foundation, it's relevant to the lives of 39 million men, women, and children in the United States alone. If you haven't experienced a migraine, it's more than just a bad headache. Often migraines are accompanied by dizziness, nausea, sensitivity to light, sound, touch, and smell, tingling and numbness of the face, and a visual disturbance called an aura. Attacks can last 4 to 72 hours usually. Also, more than 4 million people in the US are living with chronic daily migraines, which means they're having those migraines 15 days out of the month at least. And that's what I have. Before I get to the pain log exercise I've set up for myself in this video, I want to give a little more context to my condition, since everyone's experiences with migraines are different and everyone's brains are different. So far with migraines, I've not experienced the severe attacks I know others have, and my condition is somewhere between chronic migraines and chronic tension type headaches. I have a dull, low-level headache that can be amplified by different factors basically all the time, and I've had it for the last 5 years. So what I'd love to do with this video is increase awareness and speak to my experience with migraines. What I don't want the video to be is anything that could be triggering or re-traumatizing for someone. So I'll just get out ahead of time that my condition came from a concussion sustained during an assault. I live in Los Angeles now, and before that I lived in New York City. My first night in New York, actually, I was walking home with a friend, and he and I were followed by 2 men. They tried to mug us, and in the process, I got hit in the head. It was a mild concussion, but over time it developed to TBI, traumatic brain injury. Now, because my condition hasn't manifested with some of the effects associated with traumatic brain injury, I haven't had memory loss or cognitive impairment. That label seems kind of scary to me and like a bit much, but it is apt for having a 24/7 low-level headache for 5 years, which frankly is kind of an exhausting thing to have. According to the Migraine Research Foundation, depression, anxiety, and sleep disturbances are common for those people who have chronic migraines. And given that mine was part of a trauma as well, it's consistent with my experience. It's been challenging, but I feel like I've learned a lot about resilience, my own body, and others' experiences with migraines and chronic pain. So, having lived with this for 5 years and gotten to know it pretty well, I want to see if doing this exercise of logging my pain during the course of a day will reveal anything new. I've tracked my headaches before, but haven't used a log like this in years, and it can be an incredibly useful tool for pain management because you can try and track symptoms to their triggers, check in on progress over time, and be able to have, with this data, informed conversations with a healthcare provider. So I'm going to spend the next day, roughly every hour, checking in where my pain is at in my head and rating it on a scale from 0 to 10, and I'm basing this on the assessment on the American Chronic Pain Association's website. 0 would be no pain, 10 would be extreme pain, and 5 in the middle would be, I mean, 5 is pretty uncomfortable. It's not the most uncomfortable, it's definitely not good. My pain usually hovers around 3 to 5 range, and I have not seen 0 in 5 years when it comes to headaches. Oh boy. So I'm gonna get a good night's sleep and see where my pain's at tomorrow.
It is 7 a.m. I'm up. I'm awake. My pain's at about a 5 out of 10. I haven't quite figured out the best sleeping arrangement for myself. I've tried no pillow, I've tried different kinds of pillows, and so far, because my pain is still a little bit neck related, I still get pain from having my neck doing some work during the night. Maybe it's spasming, I'm not exactly sure. I'm gonna go for a little short early morning run, try and get down to a 4 through the mighty power of endorphins. Actually, one brief pre-run update. I just had a tall glass of water before I went, and I'm at a temporary 4 out of 10. I think it's gonna wear off in a minute, but water actually feels amazing on my head. I get these very immediate reactions from a lot of things that I take into my body because I have sort of a amplified headache from alcohol. Around Halloween time, my parents had a gallon of cider in their fridge. I was able to tell it, like, oh Dad, yeah, this is turned. Or also discovering that there's in fact alcohol in non-alcoholic beer. my brain knew. Anyway, water feels like my brain is like very like open, like it's a room without a roof. This is already better. Maybe down to a 3 even. Also, look, there's some ducks.
And look at this snail buddy. Hi, good morning.
Okay, I ran for about 15-20 minutes, and I would say that the pain, it's not gone, but I'm less aware of it. I think it's at a 3 right now. I feel less neck tension, and the rest of the headache is still spread across my head. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better, ready to begin the day. Also, there were so many snail buddies. I couldn't stop and say hi to them all. There were like a dozen snails. So I'm at work and I'm back up to a 4 out of 10, which is actually pretty good. I got about 7 hours of sleep last night, so my headache would have been more had I gotten less sleep. It's pretty dependent on me getting 7 or 8 hours for that not to be worse. Work today for me is at 20th Century Fox, which is a little bittersweet because I was laid off from there a couple weeks ago. It's fun to be back on the lot. And since I'm sitting at someone else's desk, temping in for them for the week, I had to adjust their workstation a little bit because the eye level of the computer was a little bit lower than I'm used to, and it was kind of straining my neck. And as I've learned over time, that neck strain has a lot to do with how my headaches creep up. I used a couple of reams of paper that I will return to elevate it. Ideally, I'd be working with a standing desk because then I'd be able to have my neck have the least tension on it. I think it's also related to upper back issues. So without a standing desk, I'm trying to get up from my desk as much as possible, every half hour at least. I'm about to eat lunch now, and I'm excited to get some food because my headache is partly from the neck strain, partly from having some hunger signs exhibiting as a headache. 6 months or so into having the injury, I noticed that I would start to get hungry, not in my stomach. I'd notice the signs of hunger as a headache first, kind of the headache I would get before the injury if I didn't eat for 8 hours. I would sort of feel like a little bit of a tunnel vision kind of headache telling me I need to eat food. And now I get that every 5 to 6 hours if I'm not eating. So I have meals with pretty frequent regularity. I don't skip them because my headache would be too awful. And I will snack in between the times I'm having meals so I can keep my brain nice and happy. This morning for breakfast, I had a spinach, carrot, banana, orange, chia seed smoothie, and it was very good. And now I'm really ready for lunch. I did a stir fry of vegetables and chicken last night, and then promptly forgot that, and I'd actually done it for lunch and dinner since I'd probably have lunch between noon and 1 or 2 and dinner around 6, and frequently at Fox I would be getting out at 6 or 7 p.m. so I'd be really hankering for dinner, and my commute's about 40 minutes back home. I really don't want to be in a position where I'm going to be sitting in traffic for 45 minutes with a headache that also is not stopped by any pain meds. Like Excedrin kind of is a relief, but it keeps me up if I take it too late in the day. So really, I just will want food at that point. So I went to Trader Joe's, and now I'm at a pretty good 3 out of 10 for dinner. For later, I got a turkey club wrap, and for lunch, right now I'm enjoying a banh mi inspired noodle bowl. It's 3:45 and I'm at 4 out of 10. I was at 3 and I've continued drinking water, but I did realize that because my headaches exhibit some symptoms like migraines, even though they don't really go away and they're not incredibly sharp, sensitivity to light can be a thing for me. I realized that the brightness of my screen, the color temperature specifically, was a little too cool, a little too sort of white, and my eyes actually and my head can be a little more sensitive to light. In this way, my headaches do exhibit migraine symptoms. And I remembered, hey, yeah, this is not my regular work computer, which I had installed Flux on before. So I installed Flux, which is a great program for adjusting the temperature warmness, and I dialed it down a little bit so I've got a warmer screen now, and my eyes instantly felt a little better, my headache felt a little better, and I think after a while I'll generally feel hopefully back down to a 3. So it's 5:15 and I'm still at a 4 out of 10. 4.5? 4.5. It's not a 5, but it's inching up there. The thing is, I'm also a little tired. I'm yawning at my desk, want to be a little more alert. So I've got some coffee here. This is really a double-edged sword because caffeine is going to make me have more of a headache, I feel sugar and caffeine rather instantly. Basically, that means I can't have much coffee at all because it'll give me enough of a headache that the whole thing will not be worth it. I'll be spaced out. So what I've got is a very small amount of decaf coffee mixed with some hot water and a little bit of cocoa powder. And I think that will be enough to sort of get me through the rest of the workday and into the evening without too many detrimental effects. But I am anticipating some head reaction. Okay, yeah, I'm feeling it at the back of my head, which is consistent with where I got hit. Sometimes what I really think is happening that can't be confirmed or denied by neurologists so far is that my head injury works like Vegemite. You know, that really gross Australian paste? Americans will try it in videos where they're trying Australian foods and just have a spoonful of it. That's a terrible way to eat Vegemite because it's just, Australians don't do that. They would put it on toast. So in a spoonful, a concentrated amount, Vegemite is disgusting, awful, don't eat it. But spread evenly over some bread, it's good, or it's tolerable maybe. So I think that's what my brain does. I think that I would have an intense and more focused pain in the back of my head where the injury was if I didn't have my brain possibly doing me a favor and compensating, spreading out the area for the pain to be spread across. And if we're saying it's a finite amount of pain, it's like that Vegemite being spread over bread. All right, 6:30 p.m. I'm at a 5 out of 10, which is coffee's fault, which means it's really my fault. But I did what I had to do. And I'm gonna have some food now, some more water, and hopefully that means I'll be at a 4. It's 7:21. I'm back at home. There's a cat here. And yeah, I'm at a good 5 out of 10. I don't want to be at 5 out of 10. I'm about to finish eating the rest of my food for dinner, a salad. And I am going to take some ibuprofen. It probably won't work. I'm gonna take some anyway. I'm gonna pet a cat, and that'll be helpful.
Anastasia, hi. Hi. Hi, good kitty. Hi. Yeah.
Okay, I'm at a good 4. The food helped. The food did help, and I'm gonna reward myself with possibly another bad thing. I'm gonna have a couple of sea salt chips. Weirdly enough, my brain reacts to like really salty foods, specifically potato chips. I don't know why. Feels really good, like really full. Okay, hang on, I'll describe it as it happens. Yeah, if water sort of like makes my head feel very open, this feels like a satisfying, like digging a hole in a garden and filling it up and then like pounding it down, like planting something and then pounding the ground down. It feels good. I mean, it's not sustainable. I can't really keep doing that since any sort of head change is a headache in its own way. Not all of it is unpleasant. And also, these are really salty. 14% sodium. I'm not having a lot, but.
So, it's the end of the day, and I did learn a few things. First off, I had a few good habits I've developed reinforced by this exercise. First off, drinking water is good. It's good for my body, it's good for my head, and it's good for everyone. It's good to be hydrated. 2, running in the morning is really good for me. Often I'm not able to do so due to time constraints and sometimes ability, but when I'm able to and I have time, running really helps my morning start off in a positive way without that sluggish, crappy beginning of the day headache. It sort of knocks it to the side and I have endorphins flowing through me. Standing is better than sitting. A standing work situation is better than a sitting one if at all possible. And having a workstation that's set up ergonomically is only going to help. So when I move my screen to eye level, not making me look down, that helped a lot with my neck. I also remembered that naps are good for me, and if I can squeeze in a middle of the day nap, which I did not do today, that's more positive for my energy and for my head, then a coffee. And as an aside, I do miss the things I'm not able to do seemingly consequence-free anymore. I can't really have a Snickers bar. I can't have a hot chocolate or a coffee and not have immediate headaches from that. I'm not really able to drink alcohol the same way I used to. Hard cider, which was my favorite, has too much sugar in it. I have a headache that night and a big headache the next day. But the way I look at it is, I had a lot of good years with those things, and I'd rather do what's good for my body rather than what's bad for my body. It makes me feel bad. So I've given up hard cider, but now and then I can have a vodka cocktail since there's far less sugar in that, and it feels better. So being mindful of my pain, recording the number every hour, reinforced good habits I already had, and I learned a few new things. The first thing is, my pain tolerance has gone up over time. I rated a lot of today on the 3 to 4 scale, but if you took me before the injury and gave that guy that headache, it probably would have been a 5, 6, or 7 easily. So I just want to appreciate that I've gotten used to managing that. The second thing I learned is that it's really good to appreciate the good days, which seems obvious, but I think there's a tendency I can even have to focus on the negative. What sucks right now, what is not good about having these headaches. Instead, today was pretty light. I've had days when I've had a sinus infection and that just feels like I've got an anvil on my head. That's an 8 at least. And when I haven't been seeing a good physical therapist, for instance, I've had more neck issues and generally worse pain. So I'm thankful for a good day like today. And the final thing I learned is I don't want to keep a pain log every day. I don't think that's something I want to focus on, because while I found myself more mindful of what I was feeling and tracking the progress, I found my life focusing on it more than I would otherwise. I think it's not something I want to push to the side and not acknowledge, but it is something I don't want my life to orbit around. I've lived long enough with this to learn a lot about it, and there's plenty more to learn. I don't know what exactly causes it, and I don't know how to fix it, if it can be fixed, but I want to be pain-free eventually. So it's important for me to observe the pain, but I don't think I'm going to track it on a daily basis. I want to know how I'm changing over time, but I don't want to give it the focus and attention that it kind of already is trying to demand. I mean, it's a headache. It's there. I'm not going to forget about it. So I don't want it to become something of a focus where every 60 minutes I'm checking in. Like, I'm going to know how it's doing. So this is a tool that I might use monthly. You should check in. I've internalized the system enough where on a daily basis I'm saying once a day, like, oh yeah, this is a 6, this is a 5. And acting accordingly. I'm glad I did this exercise. Okay, it's 10 o'clock now. I deserve to get some sleep. I just want to say thank you for watching this. This is longer than I meant it to be, but I felt really good being vulnerable and sharing the details of my experience with pain. If you have any questions, please comment below. If you want to share your story with chronic pain, with headaches, migraines, also please comment. I would love to engage with you and hear about your experiences. All right, I'm gonna get some sleep and do the whole thing over again, but focus less on the headache. Bye-bye. I don't know how to end this.